I want to take a look at just a couple of things that I have done this afternoon to your Blackboard instance, namely in the form of assignments. So the web credit card was officially due today, which makes me doubly late in your grading. I'll try to catch up this week. We're working on ClubDB, which is also somewhat of the model for the final project. And I went ahead and posted those two projects. Well, we've got a program 6 that talks about persistence. It's based on chapter 13 of our Muroc text. And so we're actually going to take the ClubDB that we build here and we're going to turn it into a project that uses Java persistence, the JPA. But at the same time, you can be working on the final project, because I'll do most of this in class, in lectures, but you'll want to get started on the final project. There will be at least one lecture on the final project, some of the quirks about getting it going, because there's a little drop down. So this is a based on Henry Books database that's here, and the Henry Books database is a little bookseller notion, and you've got several different outlets, and then you have inventory at each outlet, and you need to be able to update some of the information. The extra credit and or the honors project, depending on whether you're under an honors contract or just interested in the extra credit, will be a part of the final project. It is related to the JPA work, so you won't really be able, unless you work ahead on your own, of course, but in terms of our lecturing, you'll need to have worked a little bit on the JPA in order to do the final extra credit or honors part of the final project. Which makes me think, since we only have tonight and 4 other, no, actually we have, we have an extra because we're not having a final exam. Oh, that's right, so we're better off. So we have tonight, and then we have 5 additional Tuesdays, because I could meet with you on the 9th, which is technically finals week for the other classes. But I'd like to just reserve that as a work session night. So I think it's still proper for me to go ahead and post some additional lectures to get us kind of done with the ClubDB, the base project, and that way we can work on JPA even starting next week, and at the same time then you'll have 2 or 3 solid weeks available to be working on the final project. So that's my plan. We'll go ahead and do some work tonight in ClubDB, but then wherever we leave off, I'll pick it up in some lectures that I'll just post as recordings. All right. We have a logon servlet that at this point can read the database using that statement and connection and the select command that we write. But it can't yet build our full member object, which we will need going forward into the app. So let's see if we can't get that sorted out, and then our next page, our member update screen, in place with proper output. We've got the JSP up there, but I don't think it displays anything for us. So I need to find my Club Logon Servlet notes here, and we can get started. All right. So picking up from where we left it last week, I'm going to go ahead and leave the message as member authenticated, and I guess I had sort of intended for you to work on the building of the member object, but I know you also had web credit card to finish up, so we'll just we'll go ahead and put it in the lecture here. We've got the member ID set and the password and password attempt set into the object to tell us whether it authenticated. So we need additionally then to set the last name. So we can do an M set last name, and what we want is from the result set R, we want to do a get string, and the name should be last name, and that of course would match the field in the database. And I guess I don't have my MySQL window up, so let me grab that and get into the database. So if I show databases, I've got club. If I use club, I can show tables, and then I can describe TBL members. Yeah, so last name, first name, middle name, and so forth. So let's finish out those. So we're going to do an M dot set first and M, but it's R dot get string for first name. That's how the how the field is named in the table. And then we need to set the middle name, so we have an M set middle name using R get string for middle name. And then status, R dot get string for status. Oh, and let me make one of them not quite the same. Status with a capital S, member day. So I think I'll leave status with the lowercase s and make sure that it fills in so it doesn't have to match the exact field name upper and lowercase structure, which it used to have to match, but I think that was a driver issue. All right, so we've got finally the member date, which we are treating as a string. So M dot set member date using R dot get string for mem date. And once we've successfully pulled those into our member object, we can reset the URL to be /member screen. .jsp, that'll be the next place that we are headed, not back to the input page. I think we've got most of our messaging taken care of, and I guess the other thing is I need to set the member onto the session, and I don't seem to have done that. Now we want to do that even, well, maybe we don't, well, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and do that for the member. Even if we don't see a record, we won't set it. But if we do see a record, then I will do a request get session set attribute, and I will just we'll call it M. Will be the name on the session as well as the M object being the one we set. So I'm going to set M onto the session. Even if we fail to authenticate, that will allow us to redisplay the member ID. You know, not something you necessarily want to do in real world because you want to keep the login screen as obscure as possible, but that's okay for our purposes. And then we are setting the message itself down here. And if you like, you can go ahead and set a user ID of a cookie. So let's go ahead and do that just to remind ourselves of our cookie building. And that'll be in case of leaving the app and coming back, it'll show the last user. Kind of the way we did with the the credit card with the account number. So we'll create a cookie UID as a new cookie, and we'll have it be user ID, and user ID is a string we have up above. So that'll work for us. We need the import for the cookie, Java Servlet cookie. And then we have to set our cookie parameters. So UID set max age. And I'll do it as 60 seconds times 10. So it'll live for 10 minutes. And UID set path to / so it's available everywhere in the app, and then we put that on the response object. So response add cookie, because we want that to go back to the browser for handling. Okay, so I think we've finished up our logon servlet, and we can think about going forward to the member screen. Unless you need me to pause for a minute. Are we okay on the typing? That's my update servlet. But I need member screen. Sorry, I'm having trouble grabbing my pages tonight for some reason. Okay. So on the member screen, we've got the fields already built for us. We just need to use the expression language to fill in the value fields for each of the options. And then I want to show you a little problem that we have with the member screen. So expression language call for member ID is m.memid, lowercase m. And last name, expression call for m.lastnm is the way it is on the member object. So we have to follow the get methods on the member object now. And expression language for first name is m.firstnm, always lowercase on that first letter, throwing away the get. And then everything else is just the way it is on the method name. Another expression language call on middle name to m.middlenm. And expression language m.status. Then memdt for the member date, and finally password. We are going to have the password displayed. They may change it. It's in an input type of password, but the expression call there is still m.get password. Okay, and then we have our submit. And we've got the lower part of the screen, which we won't be dealing with for a while. That'll be in the additional lectures that I either make or dig up for you. Okay, so we should have an ability to go forward to the member screen and see our data from the database. Let's look at some examples here. If we do a select star from TBL members, I need to spell that without or with a space between the from verb, and then we'll get it. Okay, so we've got a few down here that we can make use of, such as Z005 Nancy Zimmerman, and well, we can almost see the whole set there. Oh, they're all current. I've failed to change any of the status fields to terminated. Oh well, I guess for our purposes it's not too big a deal. Okay, so let's try running the app for a minute. Now I didn't change anything in the logon JSP, so it's still going to be blank all the time. I'll leave that for you to do, just as we've done before. Either if there's a member object that's active, but obviously they just didn't authenticate, then you can go ahead and put that user ID back in the input field, or if there is a cookie, then for user ID, then you can put, so that's the OR logic on that value. But if we try Z005 and give it a bad password, it comes back with that. Or an illegal password. If we give it an incorrect password, it failed to authenticate the member. Or if we now give it 293, I believe is the correct one, if we give it a correct password, we are up to the club logon data page, club member data, and it looks like we do have all the correct status data, or member data. If I'm just looking at this, 98,218, yeah, okay. But there is a little problem, and the problem is that if the user realizes that the next page, now this isn't obvious, this wouldn't be that necessarily easy to do, but if the user realizes that memberscreen.jsp is the next page to travel to, if we go back to the login screen, we'll try A043 and we'll fail to authenticate. Okay. But if we put in A043, and knowing that that's now the ID, and we specifically try to get to the member screen.jsp, oops, it took us there. And it took us there with the populated data, which includes password, which means we can now change the password if we have the update feature and get back into the member even though none of the other data was displayed. So we need to have a little bit of a protection against that sort of thing, and we can do it with some more features of the JSTL. So if we go back to our member screen itself and add in the core for the JSTL, so that needs to be a %@taglib, and the library prefix is C, and the URI, the internal system resource, is http://java sun.com/JSP/JSTL/core. That's the library. So now if we have that available to us, we can actually try to short circuit by down here in the I'm going to put it after the heading area. We can do the following. We can ask for an if inquiry. And remember, this is processed on the server, so if they get to the member screen JSP, it will be first processed on the server, and we can ask if the test of the expression language call M is authenticated, so we can actually we throw away the is, put in authenticated. But of course we want the not condition. So if it's true that we are not, excuse me, the not goes in here, not authenticated. So we test the M object, and if we're not authenticated, then I'm just going to write a quick script. This isn't necessarily the best way of doing it. Script, excuse me, type is text/JavaScript, and then we will do a window location equal /clubdb. So we're writing a little JavaScript to redirect us to ClubDB, but just to make it even a little bit safer, I'm going to do the reverse. I'm going to say that the body, all the rest of this page, only displays if we are seeing authenticated. So I'm going to do a C, an alternative if that tests the expression language for m.authenticated, and I'll have the starting if block there, and I'll come down to the end and put, so all the way down at the bottom of my body, I'll put in the C or the /C if. So the page will not show anything, even if they manage to get there. The server will not render any information, and we'll try to redirect them with JavaScript back to the logon page. All right, let's see if that's doing what we hope. So if I do authenticate AO43, password 18, I'm crashing. I mistyped it. Oh, no, I didn't mistype it. I forgot to add the library to the project. Well, you know, that's development for you. Okay, so let's go to the libraries. And let's right-click and add a library. And we will add JSTL. And if we had Maven building our projects for us, we could have done that as a dependency in Maven, and we probably should have, but I fought with Maven so much, I will leave that for the next class, the next level class. Okay, now we'll try again. So successful authentication does bring us to the page we expect, but let's choose somebody else here. So if we, well, let's see, Y027 282. So Y027 299 fails to authenticate, so we think, oh well, how about Y027, and we'll just go straight to member screen.jsp, and we didn't get there. Took us back. So that's a little bit better security than we had a moment ago. And we are ready to think about the actual update process. So that member screen. Our question first? Oh, I had to add the JSTL library to my project. Yeah, that was the error that I was getting. Okay. Well, our next step is going to look a lot like the login screen, although we're going to introduce one slightly new feature of JDBC connection logic, and that is the prepared statement, which helps guard against SQL injection attacks. So let's see, we've got member screen form that expects the action to be member update. So we're going to build a new servlet. So right click on servlet. New servlet will be member update servlet. And we do want to add the deployment information and then remove the word servlet from the URL pattern. And that gives us now a new servlet, which will process the member updates. So this is, there's really not a lot you can do in terms of shortcutting on this one until you get to JPA, and then it gets really cool. But for now, since we're stuck with JDBC logic, I'll clean out the servlet of everything I don't need and start putting back the stuff that I do. So I actually, let's see, we'll have a string for the SQL command and for our messaging. I'll initialize the message string to the empty string, and the URL here is just /member screen because .jsp, because we're always going back from an update function. We're going back to the member display. So what we're letting them do is make changes to their information, and we're posting it to the database and then returning to the primary member screen. So member screen.jsp is where we return. I've got separate variables for the values which I might change. So I've got string lname, fname, middle nm, status, and memdate. And then I've got a long for whatever reason I called it new password. Initialize that to 0. Okay, we're now ready to think about the connection again, and I am going to just grab from the logon servlet the main pieces of code that we need to make our connection. In fact, I'm going to come all the way down, although it's more than I need. I'm going to come all the way down to my connection clause. So this will throw some red at me, but save me some typing in the long run. So we've got our connection string, the user and password information we'll need to validate to that, and then instead of user ID, we now expect to have a member object M, so we can do a request get parameter for M, request get session get parameter, get attribute. Get attribute, and the attribute is M. So the servlet needs to retrieve the the member, which should be attached to the session, and we can do our import. And I must have spelled it incorrectly. Let's see. It's not finding my member M. Member M. Oh, right. Let's cast it as a member object and then see if it's happy. Now it knows. Okay, so even though it's a member and it's on the session, it has to know how to retrieve it in terms of its memory size and locations. So member M, you have to cast your get attribute call, and then you can import business.member. Okay, and now before I use the connection, there's just no easy way around this. I think I might, well, how did I do this? Why did I do it this way? I'm looking at my notes here. Yeah, I think we're okay. So let's do an LNM string. Will be a request. Now we're going to do the form elements. Request get parameter. The parameter name is last name, I believe, from the member screen. Let me double check that. Last name, first name, middle name, so those are spelled out. All right. So our member update will obtain last name, but of course we want to make sure that they're not trying to clear out critical data. So if LNM is empty, then I'm going to add to my message string. What notice did I give them? Just last name cannot be blank is my message. Otherwise, I am going to update the member object. However, we do have a potential issue with rolling back. So we get one change that we like and we get another change that we don't like. So I think I better do this with an alternative member now that I think about this. So let's up here build, whoops, I didn't need that. Let's build member new M as a new member object. Then after we retrieve the member M object, or we could do it before, obviously. I mean, we could do the new instantiation. Then we'll do a new M, set memID to M get memID. And the problem with, we got to be careful about this, and I don't think I I may have shown this on a Java 2 assignment. We can't just equate new M with M, because the way the Java memory management works now, and this didn't used to be the case, those would be the same objects, and so we'd be writing over our M anyway. But we want to build a new M, and if we decide at the end that everything is good, then we'll post our results. So on an else clause, the last name was not empty, then new M will get a set last name to LNM. And I guess we're not, the other fields that we're not allowing changes on, well, I guess we're allowing it on most anything, aren't we? No? Okay. Then we just repeat. So we repeat the logic for first name, middle name. Let's see if we can copy some blocks of code here. Always an action fraught with peril. But F and M will be first name, and if F and M is empty, then we have to say first name cannot be blank. Otherwise, new M gets a set for first NM, and it needs to be the F and M variable. So be careful there. And I'm going to copy one more time to do middle name. I love to play with the middle initials. So we'll do a Control V, and now M and M will be middle name. So if M and M, is that what I called it? M and M, yeah. M and M. Then middle name cannot be blank. Otherwise, we do a set for middle name, and we set M and M there. And I'm just going to put continue for remaining fields, but I will plug them. So new M set member date will be M dot get member date, and new M set password. Oh no, I'm sorry. We need to let them do their password, because I want to show you something that happens. So we'll go ahead and do the password one as well. So let's we'll just set member date and status down here. So new M set status will be M dot get status, and that makes sense. You wouldn't normally let them just change their status on an update page. But the password is going to require an inner try catch, I think. So we want to, because we're going to try to, we have the possibility of an illegal or bad password that won't parse into a long. So we'll have a try here that says, all right, our new password will be equal to a long, long, parse long of request get parameter, and the parameter is PASSWD according to my notes. And then we want to make sure that it's a positive number, so if new password is greater than 0, then we believe we can set that into our object. So new M set password with new password. Otherwise, we're going to add to our message string that the new password or password is now illegal. Password is not greater than 0. That's if we succeeded in parsing. But of course we also have the catch for exception. I've been having trouble typing exception in my last few Java classes for some reason. If we throw an exception, then our message is that the password is illegal. They gave us something that won't parse to a long. Okay. So we're now at a point, having done most of the fields, I'm leaving out member date and status, but having done most of the fields, we're ready to inquire. Whoops, I guess we're actually ready to try, how about a try catch? So if we catch, what kind of exception? If I don't think I caught any. Well, we're going to have SQL, potential SQL exceptions. So let's get ready for those. So down here, 1, 2, 3, third line in, but after this code, somewhere down here, we may catch, whoops, curly brace, we may catch a SQL exception, E, in which case, well, first of all, we need to import Java SQL exception, and then we need to put our message string out, message plus equal SQL error, and I always like to just put the code as well, the SQL command that might be throwing the error command equals, and then we'll just add SQL. Oops. Oh, but I guess I didn't initialize that. Yep, variable might not have been initialized, so back up to the top and we'll initialize the SQL string as empty as well. And then I'll have another potential catch for any other exception, E, and I'll just do a message plus equal general error, and we'll add the E message to that. I think that's all I've got. Yeah. Okay. But in the main line here, inside our try catch where we've been building new M, which will be eventually be an update to an existing member record, we are ready to process if the message string is still empty. So if we get all the way down here and message is empty, then we think we have a good new M, presumably with changes because they asked for an update. So we'll just, and I'm not going to worry about matching it. Did we really get changes? I'm just going to assume what we did and run the process. So if message is empty, then I'm going to create my connection. And then I'm going to build, well, I guess I'll close my if first. Whoops. Wrong line. Okay. And then I'm going to build, well, let's build our SQL statement first. Yeah, I'm going to build SQL first. So here's what it needs to look like, and this is in the spec. You don't need to be able to build this yourself for this course. SQL equals update PBL members set. And now we're going to have a whole bunch of set properties, and I'm going to use what will be the syntax for a prepared statement. So we're going to set last name equal to question mark, because that question mark will be actual data from the new member object, but we don't want to just drop it in with a plus sign into an embedded SQL command, because that opens you up to a greater possibility of SQL injection attacks. They gave you some data that is actually a SQL command, and they're trying to get it to process unexpectedly. So last name, first name, and you just keep using question marks inside your SQL command, and commas after each one of them here. So middle name equals question mark, and I'm just building my whole big long string. And then status equals question mark. And member date equals question mark. And then password equals question mark. Oops, no comma after password. So let's see, we're doing last name, first name, middle, status, member date, password. So those theoretically might all change. And then your last condition is the where clause. Which record are you wanting to change? So we do where mem ID is equal to another question mark. And then that is the end of your SQL command. So the SQL command is built expecting to be a prepared statement with parameters for each of those question marks. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 7 question marks that we need to set as parameters. So we build our connection statement as before, and then we're going to use the connection to create not a statement object, but a prepared statement object, PS for prepared statement, as connection dot prepare statement. And we're going to use the prepare statement against the SQL SQL string, but I think we need an import for that. So import for Java SQL prepared statement. And then you get to go back through and set all your parameters using the following. PS dot set, but then the sets have data types associated with them, which is what makes it a little easier. You don't have to worry about all the apostrophe, single quotes that need to be around alphabetic fields and so forth. It handles that for you and is considered safer from SQL injection. So we're going to do a set string as the first parameter, and it will be the new m dot get last name, and then PS set string for the second one is new m dot get first name. Still setting strings for the third one as new m get middle name. Status is still a string, so set string 4 as new m get status. PS set string, we're treating the data as string, so set string for the fifth entry as new m get member date. We'll actually change the way we handle date when we go to the JPA version of the assignment. PS, finally down to password. So finally down to one where we can do a set long at position 6 for new m dot get password. And lastly, that member ID, PS set string, the 7th question mark is new m get member ID. All right, so we've got all of our parameter values, and now we will see if, in fact, we update a record. So int record count RC is PS dot execute update. But then we need to see, oops, if we failed. So if RC is equal to 0, then our message is that update failed, no changes, and we're not going to turn m into new m at all. We're just going to leave m the way it is. Otherwise, if RC is equal to 1, then our message, do I want a message? Yes, I guess I do want a message. So I'm just going to make message plus equal member updated. Whoop, hit the caps lock. But I also want to now set m equal to new m. So I'm going to make a change in m, and I don't know that this is necessary. I'd have to test it, but I'm going to go ahead and post m back to the session. So I'm going to do a request get session set attribute, and the attribute is m, and I'm resetting my m object now being the new updated m. But we have a final possibility, which would be really unfortunate, and that is that we have multiple records that changed, which is a real fatal issue, but we'll just put it out there. Fatal error. Whoops, let's see. RC records were changed. Something we really don't want to see. But then we are done with our if message is empty process. We may have added to the message, but we've processed it down. We've updated m if we think it's appropriate, if we have our posting come back completely successful. And I think we're ready at the end of our servlet here to do a request set attribute. We only need the message on the request object for processing. And then I'll go back to my club logon servlet and we'll grab the dispatcher code, just a couple of lines. So request dispatcher and dispatch forward. Go back to member update. It's doing some imports for me as we go. And I think that will do the job for us as long as we put message string somewhere in our member screen. I don't think we've done that, but that is a simple expression language call. So that was a lot of typing. I hope it was clear enough. The main point is you're now using a prepared statement whenever you have values that you need to put into your SQL command that are coming from the outside. And so we have a prepared statement, and we process it. We look to see if it seemed to work. And let's go back to member screen. Somewhere down here, I'm going to put it after the form and before the horizontal line, the horizontal rule. At the bottom of the screen, I'm going to go ahead and put an expression call to message right in there on our member screen. And I'm going to test it. Anybody need to catch up on typing? Well, actually, we can do that in a couple of minutes, assuming this works, because we're about out of time. And so let's see what happens. All right, I'll authenticate Z005. There's Nancy Zimmerman. And I know I can change any of the name elements, so I'm going to say Nancy Q Zimmerman. Update the member data. Password is illegal. Oh, that's interesting. Well, how did that happen? That's not something I expect. Oh, you know what? Well, let's see. Let's look at what did I do wrong in our servlet? Is that the name of the field? Club log on no, member screen. What did I call password? Oh, sorry. Oh, no, it was P8. Oh, it's PSSWD, not ASSWD. So that was my mistake. I had the wrong form element name. So member update servlet. But I just realized something else that's going to happen. If I don't save the attempted password, then my member, my new M, will automatically be out of sync, be non-authenticated. So let's do a couple of things. Let's start with up here, when we set the member ID, I'm also going to set my new M, set password attempt to what other M, get password attempt. But do I have a get for the password attempt? Oh yeah, no, I only have a set for the password attempt. Well, we know it's the same as the password, so maybe I don't have to do this. Let me think about this. So we set the password attempt as password. Then new M will be authenticated up until the point of setting a new password, unless, we need to set both of them. So we're going to set password attempt and new M set password to m.get password. So at this point, we know we're at a member update screen and they authenticated, so we need to set the passwords to match. We know that they do. And then if we come down here and get a new password, this is what I want. This is the example I wanted to see. So yes, I'm going to leave it this way, that if they have changed their password, we're going to update it in new M and then update it in the database, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so let's try that code. So the only changes I really had to make were setting password attempt and password to match at the beginning of my update process, and also to make sure I was calling the correct request form element. Now we'll try again. Okay, so Z005 293. And I'm going to change Nancy Zimmerman to Nancy Q. Zimmerman and update member data. And it says the member was updated. And if I go to my MySQL window and ask to display TBL members, in fact, Nancy Zimmerman was updated. But now notice what happens if I try to change the password. It was 293. I'm going to change it to 299. And I update the member data. And we're back at the login screen. But notice what happened. If you look at TBL members, it did update the password. So the question is that behavior something that we want or want to modify? And I actually think that behavior is okay. That if they change their password, then they are automatically not authenticated. It takes them back to the member screen, takes them back by the JavaScript code to the login screen, and they have to re-authenticate with the updated password. So if they give the old password, fail to authenticate, but if they give the new password, 299, in my case, we get back to the authenticated screen. So we've got one more screen out of the way, I think, and a servlet to do the job. And the next steps will be to work on this purchase screen that shows the detail of their purchases and does a little totaling for us and so forth and so on. But mine's working with a prepared statement, so I'm going to leave it at that. As I say, I hope to have some recordings out this week so that by next week we can actually start on the JPA assignment. And but if I don't get those out soon enough, I'll give you a notice and we'll do something else. All right.